review meeting for April 6th and start with that roll call.
Is Mary present?
Mary is present. There she is.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so we have Board Member Black.
Here.
Board Member Cunningham.
Here.
Chair Moore.
Here.
Board Member Olson.
Here.
Board Member Six.
Vice Chair Six.
Vice Chair Six, sorry. And Board Member Whelan.
Here.
Board Member Watkins is absent.
Okay. All right. Well, then we would normally move on to public comment, which includes anything that's not on today's agenda. Did we have any requests?
Mr. Chair, I'm not seeing anybody who's raised their hand, but I'll go ahead and announce to those folks, we do have a couple people viewing the webinar. So if you would like to address the board for items not on today's agenda, please indicate that by clicking on the icon that looks like a raised hand. If not, and you might be here for one of the items on the agenda, then we will call you at that point in time once those items open. Sorry, I need to take back control of the screen. Okay, so I don't have anybody who has indicated they would like to address the board during general public comment.
Great. Then we will move on to approval of the minutes from the 9th.
So moved. So moved.
Okay. Do we have, I'm assuming everyone has those in front of them
I do.
somewhere. Okay. So we have first for approval. I will second that. And
I have a discussion.
Great. Let's hear it.
Item number 3 under the motion, just to just a very minor thing under item 4, provide a score pattern in its place to mimic. Just to be clear, provide a score pattern in the place of the gray paint to mimic.
Okay. That's fine. We know this was dealt with anyway, I believe, but yes. Okay, any other discussion? No? Okay, so we had a first, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All, any opposed?
Stay from the meeting.
Okay, so motion carries. We had one recusal.
Abstention.
Okay. Is there any other business that staff has? We normally hear any announcements, etc. I guess we have a consent.
We do have a consent agenda from today, Mr. Chair. 1 second, let me pull that up, those minutes. I just sent them to Mary. Perfect. For item A, 401 South Hope, we had project design and final approval with the project compatibility analysis findings. And for item B, 1136 East Montecito Street was continued indefinitely for renoticing. And just a point of order, when we do votes from now on, I believe we would like to do them with a roll call, just so that we have it very clear. Yeah, so if the chair can call a roll call when we call for a vote. Great.
Okay, will do. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the consent minutes?
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Second. First and second. Any
Can we
discussion?
also get the names of the people first and seconding when they first and second, just for clarity?
Olson first.
Richard six, second.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any discussion? No? Okay, we will do a roll call vote.
All right. Sorry, one second. We have, okay, Board Member Black.
Aye.
Board Member Cunningham.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Yes.
Board Member Olson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Six.
Yes.
Board Member Whelan.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right, and then on to announcements.
Staff has no announcements today. I believe Ms. Ostringer may.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Moore. One thing I think we forgot to mention at the training, at the special meeting, was regards to your conflicts. If you have a conflict of interest, you still need to state it at the start of each item that you have a conflict for. And then what will happen is the meeting organizer will then
Okay. All right, well, if that's everything on the announcements and that, can we move on to item 1?
We can, Mr. Chair. So I'll ask the organizer to switch to item 1 on their PowerPoint. Perfect. If we could
Thank
have
you.
the
And I've unmuted Mr. Bisham and Ms. Jones.
and if we could have the project description up first, just so the board chair could read it.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Okay, this is 16 West Mission Street. It's here for final approval. It's a proposal for conversion of an existing commercial complex into a residential complex using the average unit size density program and state bonus density law. Project entails an interior conversion of the existing floor area to include a unit mix of 9 studio, 11 one-bedroom, and 3 two-bedroom units, ranging in size from 330 square feet and 895 square feet, with an average unit size of 520 square feet. Density on this 28,224 square foot lot is 35 dwelling units per acre on a lot with a general plan land use designation of medium high density residential, which allows for 15 to 27 dwelling units per acre, and using the state's bonus density law for 11% more units above base density as part of the state density bonus law. The proposed conversion includes 2 units designated for very low income level tenants. Also proposed is a 130 square foot addition. Final approval is requested and requires substantial conformance with the plans granted project design approval on December 2nd of 2019. Okay. And at this point, we should see the applicants, I guess.
Okay, I will turn over controls to the applicant now. And Heidi, did you say that would be John I should give controls to?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Heidi Jones here. We're really
Welcome.
excited to be back before you for this great adaptive reuse project. We're going to focus and run through the items to address your comments from the December 2nd hearing, and then note a couple minor changes of a few things that had changed since you last saw the plans. So with that, we'll hand it over to John.
Okay. And before we jump in, I want to ask that all the board members mute themselves while we're having the presentation, and we'll see how this goes. This will be interesting.
Also, do we have access to the minutes from the previous meeting? I think that would be helpful for board members this time. I don't know if we...
I'll work on getting those, yes, while the applicant goes through the...
Great, thank you.
John, why don't you read the comment when you go through and address the item? There's basically 5 comments and then the compatibility analysis that was made.
Yes. Hello, good afternoon. This is John Beecham, architect, the applicant. I'm going to go through the meeting minutes that we had and to let you know where the requests were made and changes made. So the project had design approval. The requests were made for the window types. They're inside an existing courtyard of this project. They had steel windows, it's from the 50s. And we were able to make the new windows match those, or to add the grids into those windows to kind of get as close as we can to those existing steel windows. The notation was made, sorry, I don't seem to have, there we go. So it's made under Windows section through here, if my pointer is working. And it also shows on A4.0, 1, 2, and 3, the elevation drawings. And I apologize, I'm trying to get us to those sheets, but we don't seem to be going. So again, if you'll be able to see those on the elevation drawings.
The comment was, if possible, identify the window types for the new windows and make the existing aluminum windows to be more compatible.
Okay, we're on the elevation sheet now, and you can see those that are identified as the new windows have had those grids added. And it's all in a 3-grid pattern to mimic those others on the interior courtyard. The second item was provide other designs for screening wall. The minutes referenced the trash, but the meeting was referencing a screen wall in the interior courtyard, the existing courtyard. I'm going to try to get us back to it's L1.00 would be our best place to see that. If we can get there. So in this courtyard area here that's being highlighted, we had a terracotta screen wall proposed. The comments at that time were that feel for these screen walls and not trying to replicate 1950 because the building has 70s addition, has other. So after studying that, we just felt like the patterns and uses that were used in the 50s were just too heavy. You had these CMU blocks with the patterns, and it just was not looking correct. And it certainly wasn't feeling right for the space. So we removed those screen walls. The one was behind the stair here along this section. The other screen was kind of back in here. And again, these are very deep inside the courtyard from the street. So we've removed those and proposed a wood fence screen that is shown here. So it's 5 foot, 5'2" high. So we're just using this as a way to kind of turn people as they come through from the parking lot into this courtyard and kind of turn them so they can go to their units. Item 3 was the building currently has years and years of conduit and added pieces on the exterior of the building. Some were painted out to match, some are just, it's all exposed conduit for Cox utilities, phone lines, things like that. We were able to remove all of those and get them to the interior of the building. So those are noted on the elevation sheets. There was a request on the stair, which is actually this piece here that's still in the drawings. The railing for that is, it had a detail in it that we were able to adjust the coloring at request of the board. There was a little pattern that's, I'm sorry, I need to back up. We have to rebuild this railing to get it to meet current code for, the child not being able to fall through. So we've kind of brought back in this little X pattern. It had a little decorative relief from the original that's there now. And we were requested to paint that a separate color to allow it to read stronger. And that is noted here in item 5 of the paint colors. The main body of the railing is 4. It's a dark, typical dark railing color. And 5 is it's a lighter gray, so it still has it can still read separate without just showing every speck of dirt.
For differentiation between the vertical pickets and the mesh crossbars for the stair rails at the courtyard.
Thank you, Heidi.
Mm-hmm.
And the last item was 5. Item 5. There's a backflow preventer that is proposed on for the fire sprinkler. And I'm sorry, I need to get to the planting plan. We were asked to screen that a little stronger, and that is in this area here, where that backflow is, and some landscaping has been added to do that screening. I'm sorry, I can't read that exact plant just yet.
Yeah, I don't see that our landscape architect had called in yet, but we did increase the plant material and the height of that material to better screen the backflow device.
The
Heather,
other item.
can you zoom in on that area so we can take a closer look and hopefully identify that plant?
Yes.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you for your patience trying to get us there. And I'm not sure if you're able to see the screen or not. I am not right at the moment for some reason.
You might have to zoom out one click and then it'll reload itself.
There we go.
There you go. So
it's this area that we're talking about. It's up above the sidewalk quite high, and back off the sidewalk. But this is it.
do we
And
see what plant it is?
yes, please bear with me just one moment.
Mr. Chair, it's still too small for me to read on my screen.
Yeah.
So this is Matthew Ozilmas. If board members, so there should be a gray bar separating the webcams from what is being displayed at this moment. You can drag that bar up and down to get a more full screen if you're in full screen mode for this. I don't know if that helps at all, but I have mine so the webcams are as small as they can be.
Okay. I think all we're trying to find is the key for those two plants so we can identify them. So if the applicant could scroll up a little bit, maybe we can figure out which key that one is.
Yeah, I'm
so
also
there's
looking on my PDF plan.
And I'm sorry, we're trying to get to the vertical bar to be able to scroll up for you. There we go.
Folks, if I may,
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes, please.
I have the, I've downloaded the digital stuff from the agenda, and I'm reading that the small green plants, dense are, and Bob, those are 5-gallon agave Americanas spaced at 8 foot on center, and the big starred light green are 24-inch box European oleander. European olive.
Yeah, that looks
Does that
correct to me, Richard.
Richard, what's the botanical name for the European olive? I'm not familiar with that common name.
You're gonna have me do, let's see. Olea Europaea. OLEA.
That's good. We're good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing we should talk
Okay,
about.
if you, I'm sorry, Heidi, I'm sorry. If staff can unmute the landscape architect, he's been trying to get on.
What's his or her name?
Lane Goodkind.
Lane Goodkind.
Okay. Okay. I have to do. Okay. They should be able to unmute themselves. Now they should be able to unmute themselves.
While we wait for Lane to get on, the other thing we should talk about while we're on this landscape page, excuse me, is one change that happened between the time we got PDA and now, and that is previously we had 27, I believe, water meters in the right-of-way, and because of various reasons and the age of the building and the way to retrofit this building, we worked with Public Works, and those meters will be now sub-metered. So we won't have, rows and rows of meters in the right-of-way any longer. So the right-of-way looks much softer without all of those boxes. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Heidi.
Oh, okay, Lane Goodkind. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Now you're unmuted.
Yeah, I am here.
Hi, Lane. Can you please speak to the plantings that's on the screen now in this area for the screen to backflow?
Okay, agave Americana, olives, and carex. The agave Americana are there to screen the backflow.
Great, thank you. So to let the board know, there were a few other minor changes that we just want to identify for you. This was in kind of in the same notion of trying to clean up that exterior. There's a few areas where we were able to remove some existing exterior doors that had belonged to the original apartments of this project. And so that would be my little cursor. So there was a door here, these kind of infilled areas. So we're able to remove a few of those doors. And then we added a new door to an existing mechanical closet here. The area under the stairs becomes a mechanical closet here. So that one already had an opening. So it's not a new opening. And this guy, the same thing is mirrored on the other side. There's another existing mechanical room that we have been able to remove the exterior door. And so the door that's proposed is just, you know, we're not trying to draw attention to it. It's just a door to match those existing. So it'd be like these down here.
Okay. Yeah, we think we've provided all of the details and colors and materials. So if you have any questions, let us know.
Okay, if that does it, then we need to open public comment for this item.
Mr. Chair, I see Mr. Rick Clausen has his hand raised.
Okay.
If it's for this item, Mr. Clausen, leave it raised and I'll unmute you. If it's for another item, if you could turn the hand off. But it looks like it's for this one. So I'll unmute you and then you may speak to the board for 2 minutes. He's still self-muted, so. Oh, there we go. I apologize, Mr. Clausen. That audio sound was unpleasant. Do you have a better connection to be able to speak to the board?
Renee, this is Ellen Kokenda. I'm just staff. I just want to jump in. If Mr. Clausen could either, I don't know if he's further, if he could maybe make sure that if he's using a computer or laptop that he sits further away from it so his his computer mic doesn't pick up, if that could be one issue.
Thank you for the suggestion. I have.
There we go.
Perfect. I was wearing a headset with a microphone, and so that may have been the problem. I'm just using the computer built-in microphone and built-in speakers now. I'm glad this is better. Thank you again to staff for enabling this this online service. I think it's going to get smoother as we go, but it's certainly better than not seeing the board members at all. Secondly, I want to compliment Board Member Cunningham for his classy backdrop. I don't think I've seen anything quite so nice in all of the webinars and group meetings that I've been to. And third, I want to apologize for coming late to this discussion. I realize that this is at the final approval stage. And I also recognize you cannot respond directly to public comment. But I would appreciate it if your own discussion would address this issue, and that is the allowable maximum density of the project. As the description says, it's 27 dwelling units per acre with a bonus of an additional 11%. And math would make me think that that's an additional 3 units. And yet the total that is in the description shows it to have 35 units. Which would seem to be over the allowable density, even including the state bonus. Thanks, that's all my comments.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, that's everybody.
Mr. Chair, I don't see anybody else raising their hand for this item. No.
Okay, then we will go and close public comment and go to questions from the board. Why don't we start with Mr. Black?
I don't think I have any questions. I have comments, but no questions at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham?
Yes, 4 questions. First, are the applied window grids on the exterior of the windows so that they read as true grids?
Yes, they are applied, but not the snap-on kind of grid, like a a wood window you would see. It is a true aluminum profile, and it's as thin as we can get those with the to replicate the steel look. There Fleetwood manufactures one now, and there's a metal window core. I'm sorry, Western Window Systems.
Okay, so just to clarify, if you're looking at the window from the outside, it looks like an actual grid on the outside, not a pane of glass between the grid and the interior of the window.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Correct. That is correct. It is not a grid inside the dual pane.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I've just got 2 questions. The one is to the screen planting, if Mr. Goodkind can answer this. The space between the sidewalk and, I believe, a retaining wall, you have agave Americana, is that correct?
I believe you're talking about that corner we were looking at previously.
That's correct.
Yeah, those are agave Americana.
Okay, and what is the width of that space between the sidewalk and the retaining wall?
Sidewalk and the retaining wall. The retaining wall is right out. The retaining wall, that's the sidewalk directly.
Okay, so so this planter is above the sidewalk elevation.
Yeah, it's well above by about 4 feet.
Okay, that's all I have then. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, who's next? Let's go to Mr. Olson.
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Six.
Yes, thank you. This is a question for John. You do not need to replace I think they're the 3rd floor balcony railings and stair railings because do they comply with the code now?
Yes, sir. That is correct. They comply.
Okay, and then if we would go to, are the existing windows, the steel windows, recessed? Because I see on sheet 8.1, detail 6, that it's surface mounted. Can you go to A 8.1?
Is trying to get us there. A little delay. The windows that are being replaced are not inside this courtyard where they're adjacent to the existing steel windows. These are around on the back side at the parking lot at the 70s addition. And all of those windows were a nail-on fin. They're on the exterior face. And so that's the window that we're keeping that element of it consistent.
I know. Okay, I did notice that on 3rd floor, back of the back, there are some replacement windows up on that upper balcony. I think if you go to your elevations for the back elevation of the courtyard.
That is here. Right. Yes, so those are part of that 70s addition as well.
Oh.
And we were,
Okay, so all of those existing and windows and doors are flush for the outside?
That is correct. Everything that was made in that, the whole back component of the structure.
Okay, and then just to help me, detail two on A 8.0.
Yes.
No,
8.0.
8.0.
There we go.
Yeah, down in the lower left. Where's that? Is that,
That is this stair railing that is on the pointer, and you follow it up to this part. There's a stucco wall at the little balcony that goes to that second floor. And so this is showing that little extension to meet our 42-inch height here.
okay, all right.
And then this is okay. You need
All
to see
right.
that in plan?
No, I'm good. Thanks. That's my questions.
Okay, Mr. Whelan, any questions?
Yes, a couple of clarifications, please. With the trash enclosure area and the bike parking area, were those existing?
No, those are new.
Thank you. And there's mention in the staff report of 130 square foot addition. Where is that and what is that? Is it the enclosure of the garage?
There's, where I'm pointing now, there is an interior stair section beside the addition is all interior. It is here, and then on the third floor there was an interior stair it was a residence, and it was connecting the top and bottom, and that has been infilled. So the addition is all interior space.
Thank you, I understand.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, if the applicant could perhaps address the member of the public's question regarding the state density bonus calculation and how the unit total was arrived at. I think that'd be helpful.
Sure. So the unit total proposed is a total of 23 units. That is consistent with the medium high density residential land use designation, which allows 15 to 27 dwelling units per acre. With that, then we are utilizing the state bonus density program, where if you dedicate a certain number of units, in this case 2, to a very low income, you get additional density above what is allowed by the city AUD program. So everything is consistent with the city program and the state bonus density law, but the total number is 23 units.
Okay, so if that's all the questions, let's move on to comments. Let's start with Mr. Six.
Mr. Chair, if I may, before we start, if we could mute the applicants of the panelists at this point, just to make it clearer that we don't have any interruptions, because this part is really to the board. So if the organizer could do that, that'd be great.
I will do that. Thank you, Matt.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I find this project all in line and the details worked out. And it's, I think that everything is good to go and is ready for final. Those are my comments.
Great. Mr. Cunningham?
I agree with Board Member 6. I think the project is ready for final approval.
Okay, Mr. Olson?
I agree that it's ready for final approval also.
Okay. Do any of the board members feel otherwise or have any comments?
This is David Black. It's just a small practical matter, but I thought the use of agave Americana as a screen around a backflow preventer just seemed kind of an inappropriate plant material. I mean, they're really big, they're really spiky. I don't know how you would, once they mature, I don't know how you would even service that that backflow preventer. But I don't know. It just that's kind of my thought on it. I think you should have something a little bit less obtrusive and threatening. But just a comment.
I would actually agree with that comment.
Okay. Anybody else have any further comments?
Mr. Chair, could we get the landscape architect to suggest another planting material and spacing, size and spacing, so we can get this over the hump here?
I'd be okay with that. We need the meeting organizer to unmute Mr. Goodkind's mic.
I have done that, so he should to unmute himself now.
Okay.
Hi, I appreciate the comment. I think the intent here was that those agave are well in front of, and they're actually not close to the actual backflow preventer itself, since the sidewalk is about 4 feet lower or even 5 foot lower than the backflow preventer. You really don't need much to do the screening. And so therefore the agave don't even need to be near the backflow preventer to screen it from the street.
Okay, so you're saying they're adjacent to the backflow preventer, but they're not right on top of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's fine,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
May we have the applicant circle with the arrow, the preventer? Because it does not show up on the plan that I can see.
Right, John, I will give this mouse control back to you if you want to show them on here.
Okay. Am I circling this?
Yeah,
Right
here,
there.
I'm going to give you a bigger pointer there. Use that one.
Mr. Chair, I think it's on the prior sheet. If we scroll up to the sheet before it.
That was our irrigation plan.
It's right there, the RPZ symbol. If you go back to where you were before. In either case, that's in our control, so we can move the backflow preventer if we need to, but it's back from those agave.
Yeah, I can see it. I agree. I think it's behind the planting, proposed planting. It's not amongst it. So, okay, thank you. All right. So it sounds like everybody's satisfied. So let's craft a motion. So I'll take a crack at it. The motion is for final approval as presented. The board appreciates the applicant's attention to detail and the conversion of this property into much needed housing. And I believe we've already read the compatibility analysis.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. It would just, yeah, we do not need to read those into the minutes.
Okay. And the plans seem to be compatible with the PDA that was granted. So That's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I'd say Mr. Cunningham seconded. All right, so we're going to do a roll call vote. So board members will say yea or nay.
All right. Board Member Black.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Board Member Black? It was interfered.
Aye. In favor.
Aye. Perfect. Board Member Cunningham.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
Board Member Olson.
Aye.
Board Member Six.
Aye.
Board Member Whalen.
I'll abstain.
Okay. And Board Member Watkins is absent.
Okay, so motion carries. Thank you very much. Congratulations to the applicants. Right. It's certainly exciting when the approval happens this way. Okay.
All right. So I believe at this time, the applicants can sign off if they'd like. They're welcome to stick around. We just ask that they keep their mics off. And actually, we ask that you re-enter as an attendee if you could, just because there is a limit to the number of panelists we can have. And with that, I think we can move on to the next. Sorry, I don't mean to run
Matthew,
the
can we
meeting.
announce the appeal period?
Yes, it's a 10-day appeal period, and in that time, the applicant can submit to the building and safety counter. We will not be able to issue a building permit during that time, but you will be able to get your reviews.
Okay. And how are we doing on time? We are second agenda item is slotted for 3:50, so we're right on time. Look at that. Okay. So do we have the second applicants? Item number 2 applicants?
Hello, this is Michael Holliday, project architect.
Great. Welcome. We'll read your project description for the record. This is 37 West Calle Lorles. This is a concept review, proposal to remodel multiple facades of an existing non-residential complex. Project includes removal of windows, replacement of doors and windows, new awnings, and new paint. No change in floor area is proposed. No change in the number of parking spaces is proposed. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing, and this project requires compliance with the project compatibility analysis and the Upper State Street design guidelines and the outdoor lighting design guidelines. Okay, well, welcome, and we will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Let's get back to page 1 here. So this is a concept review. It's kind of renovation and almost an aesthetic enhancement of the existing buildings that have been built on the site over a period of about 60 years. And essentially it's a modest exterior aesthetic upgrade of the existing building. The new client that has bought the property is trying to sort of reposition it, but also do the minimum amount necessary to make it kind of compatible for their uses. So I can come back to the tabulation sheet if there's any other questions, but I think everybody's pretty familiar. It's right at the intersection of De La Vina and Calle Lorales. So going to the next sheet, I think we figured out we used the gray bar here. These are some site photographs. I'll just kind of zoom in on these a little bit, gives you a little bit of context. Trying to see how we slide sideways here.
There's a zoom down towards the bottom. If you get down here, you can hit the plus sign.
Yeah, maybe we don't need to. I mean, eventually, so this would zoom straight in, and okay, and then how do we scroll left and right?
So you can either use the bars or there's a little hand.
Yeah.
That hand? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you grab it, and
yeah,
if
it's
you
not
do the
clicked
hand,
right now. Yeah, you gotta make sure it's blue.
Oh, I see. You double click it or something?
Should work now. It looks like. Yeah, there you go. Blue.
There you go. So, okay, a little clunky. I'll try to keep it pretty straightforward. You guys, we can come back and look at these, but essentially this is what the building looks like right now. I want to really get over here to the side here. The zoom seems to work well, not so much this other. Anyway, here's the existing intersection, De La Vina, Calle Morales, existing structures. Pretty much nondescript, existing, kind of Mediterranean buildings. And there's these buildings have been built over time. They sort of step down the hillside as the topography goes down the hill, but do have some consistent roof lines, which we're maintaining all of that. I'll zoom out and keep going here. Survey, we've got a detailed topo survey. There's a Archer's Alley that goes right back through here, and we're not proposing to do any work to the back area here. So it's really just an aesthetic kind of refresh to the front of the building only. And there seems to be we've kind of wrapped the corner right here and down on the De La Vina side. No change in building color as well. So we're hoping that this will be kind of a seamless, there we go. The getting around the front here. So the whole front of the building will look like a, renovation of the entire structure, but all we're doing is the single-story street front buildings. Go to the next sheet here. So maybe, Renee, how do we zoom out a little bit? I guess there's the whole sheet. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it this way. It's a lot easier. So this shows the what the proposed scope of the project is. Essentially, there's a new optometry office that's going inside the building here, and another retail store going right next to it. That's an optical store. No work inside of any of these existing spaces, but this is the scope of the interior remodel for the building. And what we're proposing, everything in red here is what's being removed and renovated up to right around the corner here. So essentially the front of the building is proposed to be kind of aesthetically improved. Yes, here's the second floor, which is not part of the scope. Fortunately, all of the second floor is set back quite a ways. You don't even realize when you're driving up and down the street that these second floor buildings are back there. So we're kind of renovating what you can see from the street level. And here is a more detailed floor plan that shows a little bit more about what's going on with the interior. So kind of interior office layout. The proposed scope of the project is going to be, I'm trying to figure out how we can zoom in and still grab it and slide it. Do you know how that function works? The hand is showing up, which is a pointer. I'm just wondering how do you grab this and slide it around?
Okay, I think if you zoom in, then you can. Does that help?
Oh, okay. Yep, that's great. So this shows a little bit more about how the layout is going to be. The front entrance is still going to be right here, right where it currently is. It's just going to be enhanced. And we've kind of described what's happening with the, so let's see. Yeah, here's because of the layout of the optical exam rooms, a lot of these windows, we'll look at these on the exterior elevations in a second, don't function. They're actually kind of work against everything that needs to happen inside these optical exam rooms. So that window right there, this window right here, we are keeping this window, letting some light into the reception area. These windows are proposed to be filled in, and we're keeping one window here on the front towards the entry waiting room. These windows here and all of these are going to be remaining, but there's kind of, we'll look at it, it's kind of a hodgepodge of existing openings right now, and we're trying to clean that up. So existing storefront and entry doors to be replaced with new in this area right here. And this existing storefront is sort of the same situation. It's with existing storefront and entry doors to be replaced with new, but aesthetically much more consistent. We'll see that this is kind of a real mishmash of existing openings out there. And the same thing would be true on the rest of the building. So that's right up in this area. So the whole front of the building is being renovated and enhanced. Go to the next sheet here. Maybe. Second floor, like I said, not in scope, but it just shows those existing roofs that are to remain. This shows the, it's nice if we can go back and forth with the buildings. Go back out so you can see the full sheet. Yeah, so here's the existing elevation. So if we blow this up, I should be able to use the hand. Yeah, here we go. We've modeled the whole building in Revit. And then this shows how the way these buildings were built over some time, but it actually even looks a little better in elevation than it feels in the field. This is the way it looks with the other elevations. So the new improvements are going to clean this up and make it all consistent. Zoom out per minute. This shows what we're proposing in Revit. And landscaping will be probably key in this area to try to soften these large areas. Again, these were into optical exam rooms, which can't have light into them. So we're thinking that some sort of landscaping against these areas is going to be nice. Also, the west sun really blasts this west-facing glass all summer long. So having even any kind of overhang here isn't really too effective anytime after 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So all of this glass, we'll show you in a minute, we've got kind of a solar bronze tint to kind of knock down that solar gain. Here's a proposal. This is, again, concept review. So this is our initial drawings. Here's the existing situation, and here's what we're proposing. Essentially leaving the mass, bulk, and scale of the existing building and just cleaning it up. All of this sort of fussy storefronts being cleaned up, and we'll talk about thinking on that. Lighting is going to be a key issue. You mentioned the lighting guidelines, so we've got some fixtures that we like. This will become the new main entry. This is the way it exists right now, and this is what we're going to create. So what we're proposing to do is add some awnings over some of those west-facing windows, again, to address the solar heat gain concern. Also, visually, I think this is going to add kind of a nice layer to the building. And then the new storefront, new doors, we'll show you some of the tile and work in a minute. Also, the existing landscaping really is very, it is kind of a hodgepodge. Let's see if I can. I guess the best way to do this is if we go, seems like if we use the blue, then, this allows us to move. Yeah. So these little landscape pockets, we're proposing to get rid of and to do some potted plants out here in this area. We'll show you in some of the photos. It's really a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. And I think there might be a little patch right here. So the concept is to have some potted plants that allow this to be kind of clean and open and functional. Right now, some of these doors don't even function. So that gives you a sense for the, this would be the west elevation. Here is the kind of northwest corner, existing condition. You can see these little patches right here I was referring to. What we're thinking is just put either hardscaping those in or gravel, perhaps, and then just adding some potted plants that's a little bit more decorative and would add a layer of color. This little area here, we're thinking probably just one awning that goes across all of those instead of this little pop-out awning. And then all of this is all new glazing and storefront to match. And then this is where the project would stop. So we're going to paint it to this point and then wrap around the whole front. So there's sort of a sketch of the northwest corner. And here's a sketch of the southwest corner. Existing condition, these sort of very flat nail on, all aluminum, anodized aluminum existing windows. And we're looking to clean those up. We'll show you the window samples that we're proposing in a minute. Adding these new awning elements. Lighting is going to be, because we've got to keep maintain lighting out here up front. There are several existing fixtures here around the exterior of the building, and we're hoping that we can retrofit those with LED. If not, probably have to come up with a replacement fixture, but we'll show you what we're proposing. So that's kind of an overview of the project. And Renee, I think you've got those images, which we're going to look at for sample color and materials that we're considering.
Yeah. So let me just open these as we go.
Sure, we can just go down. These were some other lights. Let's go to the next one. That shows the sketch. If you want to zoom into that sketch maybe a little bit, just to give them a sense for, we've got this, we're in concept, but we've actually kind of gone beyond that just to sort of call out all these materials and finishes. We can go to the next photo. It's kind of a better shot. Yeah, there you go.
Oops, sorry, there's just a delay here. So did you want me to zoom in
I
on
see.
that sketch?
Maybe so, because it actually shows kind of what we're thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, so the area below the glazing, we're thinking is this terracotta tile that's down below. I wonder if we can scroll down just a little bit so she can see it. Yeah. So this terracotta color tile right here is we're thinking it'd be cut maybe in strips, maybe 4-inch or 6-inch wide. That would just add a little bit of texture, and it would run consistently across the bottom. That would be this color tile right here. This is a match of the existing plaster color of the building that we're proposing to be existing to remain. Yeah, okay, I can zoom in a little bit. And then, let's see. Yeah, there we go. This is what I wanted to do. Just so you can see exactly what's going where. Can we go down a little bit, Renee, as we can?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You just did. Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe shrink it a little bit. If I can. Yeah. This anodized, let's zoom, let's go to the next photo. Maybe we can show where these colors fit. This is, actually I straightened these up on the next one. So let's go to the next image.
Yep.
There you go. This shows that terracotta tile that we're thinking about using. The medium bronze storefront was what we were proposing to use on all the windows and doors. So it's a Conair. We expect, this is a solar bronze glazing system, just to get a little bit of relief because it's so bright out there on the front. The option is clear glass, but we want to be able to see in there as much as possible, but also kind of control the heat gain. This burgundy from Tileco is what we were proposing as the lower tile, but cut into maybe 4-inch or perhaps, I think 4-inch vertical. We're trying to get that rhythm going across the bottom. It felt pretty good. These are the decorative tiles that we're proposing to show in the little recessed window, and I'll show you that in a second. And then this umbrella cloth, let's go to the next photo. I've got a better shot of how this awning material might work. I think it's maybe one more. This, that's the tile work there. You gonna open or not? I sent you a good photo of that that umbrella, but this is concept, so we're actually approving it. But there is sort of a nice colored awning tile. Maybe if we open this one up, maybe this is the best one to look at. Yeah, this umbrella material, which we kind of like. See what happened there. I'll let you control it. You can get us back to that one. Yeah, and then just get us to the material. So these are the suggested materials and the decorative tile work that's going to go in that little recessed window element in the center. We can go back to the elevation if we need to, but this is just, again, to show you the flavor of what we're trying to do, which everything's trying to be consistent with the existing, architecture of the building. There we go. So this umbrella sailcloth, which would run horizontally and add sort of a layer. These two tiles go on the exterior in the recessed areas. So I think that's everything. Plaster. All of the windows we're thinking would be the medium bronze. And keep it in this rich, warm color and texture.
Okay, great. It sounds like we've got a lot in front of us here, which is great at this level. And is that everything you wanted to run through?
Yeah, that's everything for our as part of our presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Yeah. Okay, great. We will then to open public comment. Is there anybody who will comment?
I don't see anybody with their hand raised in the webinar. If there is somebody out there who would like to speak on this item, please click on the icon that looks like a raised hand, and then we can call on you. And I'm not seeing anybody, anyone for this item.
Give them a few seconds, and then we can go ahead and close public comment. Go to questions. Let's see. Why don't we start with Mr. Black? Any questions?
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham?
No questions.
All right. Mr. Whalen?
Thank you. It took me a moment there. A question for the architect. The proposed images seem to imply that several of the palms will be removed. Is that the case?
No, that's not the case. All of the palms are going to be, well, yeah, it's good. Our sense was that all of the palms will be maintained. In the sketch there, I think we probably left out one because it was just looking, it is pretty repetitious, but there's a nice rhythm there, and I don't think we want to remove any of those. We haven't gotten into that level of detail and I don't know that we have purview over that area there, but certainly I think the palms are up high enough. You've got plenty of view into the storefronts, and the palms actually help shade that front of the building.
Okay, so it sounds like a no. The intent is for the palms to stay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The other question I had was, had you considered tenant signage for the building?
Yes,
so
tenant signage
how would that be portrayed or displayed?
Yeah, there's a separate signage consultant working on the signage, which is obviously a key component. There is no signage on the existing building outside. It's all inside except for that little barbershop pole on the corner.
Mr. Chair, if I may, sorry. Sorry. Just wanted to, for the sake of time, this signage is reviewed by the sign committee, so it's not the purview of this board. So if there is any signage proposed, it will be under a separate application and will go to the sign committee.
Okay, thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Olson.
I have a question. I do. I have several questions. First of all, I have a question for Matthew. Is it inappropriate for us to ask where the signs might be?
Chair Moore and Board Member Olson, it's not inappropriate. It is more, there's not much this board can do. They don't have purview over that. So it is more of a question of, is that what the board wants to be spending its time on? You guys absolutely can, but I just wanted to clarify that before the board started making comments on where they found signage to be appropriate.
It certainly seems to have a great deal to do with the aesthetics of this building as to where they might be and how big they are. I realize it's not our purview, but so that's.
I can comment if you'd like. Let's go look at the other view in the center. We have thought about signage. Yeah, on this, I think this area right here, we're eliminating. There's no signage on the existing building, as you can see, or other than an address. What we're proposing to do by eliminating several of these little small windows is to create a large flat area here that this is where one sign would be, right where there's currently a window. And then other signage right here on the side of this wall for the entrance to this building. That seems to make the most sense. It's right at the front of the building. It's right next to the primary access point for the public way. And so there's the signage. It's actually, we've actually kind of, let me see if I can do this now. I guess I got to use the tool.
We get the gist of that. We don't want to burn too much time on that. So
the other signs may be suspended from that in this area, and there's a clearance issue, but they would be about 10 inches maybe suspended over there. But completely separate issue. It's really important, I agree, but it's not within our scope.
Right.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you. That's helpful. I have a couple of more questions. Do you intend to do anything with the roof tile?
No, we don't. Existing roof tile to remain. Everything on the roof is actually in pretty good shape. And as you can see from down below, it's just existing to remain. Building color is not changing, so we're trying to get a seamless kind of aesthetic enhancement to the front, and then just replacing all the windows along the front. So everything in the back is existing to remain.
How about the gutters?
There are no gutters. Right now, the water just pours off the front, and that's what we're proposing. We're not touching any of that.
And do you intend to paint the second story part of the building behind it?
No, we don't. That's why we match the color of the building, so that the actual plaster color that we've suggested is taken from the sample. So it was recently painted not too long ago, so it's in pretty good shape. So we're not repainting or changing the color of the building at all. And then we're just, we're going to have to repaint just the front where we're doing the aesthetic improvement.
I have one last thing to mention, and that is I appreciate your presentation of the elevations. It makes it quite easy to comprehend what you're doing. And I want to thank you for that. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Six.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Michael. Mr. Chair and Michael. First of all, if we go to G011, the aerial photographs, I have a couple of questions in regard to existing rooftop equipment. The aerial view looking southeast, it's very apparent that the northern building has very shallow parapets and existing units above the roof, which are visible in some of the street views. Are these units going to be changed and upgraded?
We've had the mechanical engineer look at all of this, and evidently it's all been, when they did the refresh on the building, which was essentially a repaint, they replaced a lot of that equipment years ago. I think it's all got another 10 to 15 years of useful life, so there's no proposed changes to any of the mechanical equipment on the rooftop. We realized that if there was, it would have to be screened, and there is a low parapet condition there, which is kind of problematic, but no proposed changes to the rooftop mechanical at this time.
And caveat to that is up on the upper, I know it's not in the scope of the work, but these the rooftop units on the second floor are even more apparent. Is there, I don't know whether we can demand in the scope of the work to have these existing, even though, well, this is actually a question to the chair and to the staff.
No, we can't start including elements that are outside of the scope of the project. We can strongly encourage the applicant to take those steps. And again, we're here, and this is conceptual review, so it's very.
If we go to a new question, if we go to A101. Well, yeah, A101, you'll note on the very northern, where the barber shop is, along that northern alley, you have indicated that you're going to replace that very small high window to the left-hand side of the door as you enter. However, when you go to A202, proposed elevation, you've eliminated that. What is that, Mike? Are we going to eliminate it or not?
Well, I think the demo plan that we were showing you there is the window's actually taken out and we're filling in that area.
I get it. Okay. And then, yeah, that's a comment. Let me, let's see, proposed elevation 101. Let me get my bearings here, please. Thank you. A proposed elevation, west elevation 01 on A202. I know this is getting into a comment, but is there a reason that the two windows flanking your center window, those are going to be replaced with new?
Yes.
And is there any reason that they would have to remain with this unfortunate horizontal long proportions?
Yeah, we've kind of looked at that. The existing openings are of that proportion, and the room on the right, on the far right, is going to be an employee break room. So for a couple reasons, you don't want to look in there. And on the other side is a reception area, and you'd be looking at the backside of chairs. So, and then the heat gain is not an insignificant concern, because there's just, there is an overhang, but that west wall just gets really hit by the direct sun in the afternoon. So We could look at, so you wouldn't want one on the right-hand side. You know, potentially you could look at one on the left, but it would be looking into the backside of chairs.
I'm thinking that perhaps instead of one long window unit, that there would be like maybe even 3 individual, more Spanish style proportioned windows. That's a comment, but let me comment at comment time. As long as we're on this west elevation, Michael, there's when we go in between the buildings in that skewed funnel shape, as we go in between the buildings, you're replacing the first window. But what about the second and third windows? They seem to be
yeah, those windows going back, we are replacing the one right on the corner, but all the rest of those we're proposing to leave. They're existing windows that are just going to open up into the interior, and they work actually for the guy on the interior. So from a cost perspective, they asked if we could just be existing windows to remain. You know, if the board says you got to replace those 2, that's something to think about. But essentially, we're just trying to cover the street front of what people see and enhance that area.
Well, my opinion is that, well, I'll get into that. And the new windows are recessed?
Yeah, as much as we can. So we'll get a little bit of reveal instead of being flush nail-ons like the existing windows are. So they would be set to the inside. It's only a 2x4 wall, so it's not like we are going to get a lot of depth on those recesses.
But you'll at least get some rolled plaster.
Yeah, the detail there we haven't really looked at, but there'd be I don't think the building has any kind of soft rolled plaster, but it would be consistent with whatever the rest of the building is.
Yeah, just a return of the plaster.
Right.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Did we get everybody's questions? I think so. Okay, well, let's go to comments. Why don't we start back up at the top of the list with Mr. Black? Any comments?
I think this is going to be a really nice project. You know, from what I can see conceptually, some nice detailing on it. It's really cleaned up, and it really needs it. The only thing that sort of jumped out at me, can you go back to the page that you had the materials, the awning material and the lights, I guess? Specifically the lights.
Okay. I think the light, oh, here.
Yeah. I guess I'm just looking at those 2 lights on the left-hand side, particularly the one in the upper left. Seems kind of contemporary, but just looking at it, obviously it's not a final selection or anything, but I was just curious about it. It doesn't have a real sort of more of a traditional character to it, but it's just something that jumped out at me when I saw them, that's all. But it's early in the game, so that's all. Those are the only comments I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cunningham?
Thank you. With regard to the awning color, it seems like the awning color is a little bland for following Michael's notion that this building wants to be a little more interesting. I think maybe some further study on the awning color would be to get just to make it more interesting. You know, an actual color rather than the beige or ecru, whatever you want to call that. And second, I'm really bothered by the removal of the landscaping in front of the Calle Laurella's elevation. I do think that pot is nice, but in my experience, pottery tends to be temporary. And when it disappears, it seldom comes back. So I really think it would be better for this building to have permanent landscape around. Don't spend the money in those planters, but spend the money on the landscaping. One other thing, and I'm just going to thank you, Michael, for this. On A801, the elevation of the, in reality, shows about a 1 foot high parapet at the top of the shed roof, whereas your proposed elevation shows a full roof, and that's somewhat deceiving because that's not what we're going to get. I would appreciate it if your proposed elevations match existing if you don't intend to change that roof to without that parapet. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm just typing some notes as we go forward. Mr. Whalen, comments?
Yes, thank you. Overall, I think the proposal is very good. I especially like changes to the paseo and how it draws attention and relates to the corner intersection. On that same point, I think that could be developed further with, say, a slightly different shade of paint or even awning to identify that as now a major public space, whereas before it was little more than an alley passageway. I would also support, and I'll defer to member 6's notions on the horizontal windows, and all of the window reveals should have that depth to them and perhaps a heavy dividing mullion. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you. And now, Mr. Olson. Comment.
I agree with Mr. Cunningham. The elimination of those cutouts on the front elevation, I don't think will allow for an improvement. So I think there's still an opportunity to landscape in those areas that pots just won't satisfy my need for landscape in the front. And the second comment is that that alleyway now between the two buildings, with the elimination of those windows in there, it certainly seems bleak and uninviting. And I would wonder if something couldn't be considered to enliven that area. That's all my comments.
Okay, Mr. 6.
Yes, it's a very nicely conceived project and appreciate the improvements. And I think I agree with prior comments about the pots versus the in-ground planting. I think Bob Cunningham, I think the applicant is proposing the striped awnings, not the plain Jane ecru. Is that your understanding, and you still think the striped awnings are not are too boring?
I do think there could be a little more interest in those. It's just different color. And I'll go on to say that these colors seem to be a little contemporary, not what we normally see in Harbor for awnings.
Okay. Then in regards to the windows, I kind of alluded it in my questions. I think the long windows on the proposed west elevation on A202, they could be handled in a different way, either, as I say, separate squared windows, or somehow, Michael, to I think the proportions and the way they are very unfortunate and 60s type thing, and should be looked at to find a better proportion. And I understand they need to be high, but maybe there's a different way to configure them. I also believe that in the slot between the north and south building, that one should go further and replace or enhance or eliminate some of the windows down that, if we could go to A202. Yeah, down the proposed elevation 01. Yeah, and in between the buildings where that slot is, right there. Yep. Yeah, I consider that apparent to the street and would encourage that more of the windows down that row be looked at and enhanced or dealt with in a better way. I'm a little concerned about the solar bronze, especially on the street front storefronts, perhaps a different clear, but yet solar performing glass would be better. I also agree with Mr. Black's comments on the contemporary fixtures in the left-hand frame of that when you showed the proposed examples of the fixtures. And again, I'm hoping that voluntarily one could deal with screening some of these existing exposed roof amber units. But other than those, I appreciate the improvements to this, and I think that it's a fine start. There are my comments.
Mr. Chair, I apologize for interrupting. The applicant had submitted 2 other photos of lighting fixtures. Trying to get them to show up here. Sorry.
Okay.
Those are the PDFs, yeah. Here we go. Huh.
These are the can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, these are the existing light fixtures that are actually all around the building and pretty substantial. So our first question was that if the light fixtures are going to be consistent, which we would think they would want to be, then if we could LED retrofit these. Right now they're incandescent, and some of them don't even have bulbs, I don't think. But this was what's there, and somebody spent a lot of money on these fixtures. I think there's a half dozen of them or so out on the front. So this is what we are proposing. Unfortunately, that one photograph that we showed you, those 2 fixtures would never be proposed by us. They were just ideas by some folks in our staff. So we realized that, yeah, those on the interior maybe or something, but the exterior we realize has to be consistent with what's there. That's why we just thought something that's in keeping with those existing light fixtures and like that was what we're proposing.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, my own comments are that this, it's a great enhancement for this site and property and for the neighborhood at this conceptual level, and that I agree with the majority of the comments, and I believe, I'm not sure, the glass color and that sort of thing, I think the applicant is going to struggle with some of those decisions with where the bronze or having some sort of a colored glass is just going to be a requirement for energy analysis reasons. So their hands may be tied, and we may just have to accept some of those issues. I also agree that the horizontal windows are not appropriate. If those should be restudied. I'm sure there's a nice way to resolve that and still allow for your interior layout to work. And okay, that's it. Shall I just restate the comments that we've had so far, and then we can from that?
Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I'm going to adjust this one comment that was made, that the existing lighting is appropriate for the project, and that the board recommends that these fixtures be repaired and used as the exterior lighting. Then that the proposed awning color is too bland. Please study the color to tie the design into a more Santa Barbara style, consistent with the guidelines. Removal of the landscape in front of the buildings is inappropriate, and that a permanent in-ground landscape solution would be appropriate. Coordinate the existing proposed CAD elevation. Further enhance the entry area through either awning color or other means attention to this area that it is in fact the main entry. The wide window, restudy those to create something more in keeping with Santa Barbara style and the design guidelines. And that the applicant should pursue a less apparent glass color to the extent possible than any add. Anybody?
Oh, yes. Kevin, are you going to suggest that they change more of the windows down that center corridor between the two buildings on the south elevation of the optical store?
Well, I mean, I can include the comment. I don't feel it's necessary myself. I think the applicant is really trying to balance the expense of all this with the impact of the upgrades. So I would hate to try and spread their budget too thin.
Can we
recommend? Yeah.
Yes, I would like your motion to include a recommendation at least.
Board member, Chair Moore and Board Member 6, is this a motion that we're creating? I was under the impression that it was a summary of the comments. It sounded like a motion, but it wasn't posed as
no, not. I was just trying to gather all the comments before we made an official motion. So does anyone else have anything to add?
Can we also add a recommendation to screen the existing first story, at least AC units?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will create a motion for, and Matthew, you'll have to help us out here. Is at this point, would a indefinite continuance be appropriate?
This project, as it currently stands, has been deemed incomplete by staff, so there are no timelines for this project at this time. If you'd like to see it before reviewing it for project design approval, then just state so in your meeting, but you can continue to the next meeting or indefinite. There's no timelines at this point.
Okay. Is there room on the next agenda?
There is, yes.
Okay. Is it possible to ask the applicant if they can make some updates in time?
It is possible, yes. So they would need to submit plans electronically no later than Wednesday of next week.
Okay. Is the applicant interested in doing that?
Yes, this is Michael. The client's very interested in expediting this project as quickly as they can, so we really appreciate being on the next agenda, and we'll make it.
Okay.
We'll do everything we can to make it happen.
Okay. So motion would be to continuance to the full board to the next agenda. So 2-week continuance. With the following comments: that the board appreciates the level of design and detail in the conceptual review of this project, and that improvements will be greatly appreciated, I think, by the neighborhood. And then our list, the applicant should provide lighting, exterior lighting that matches the existing lighting, or the existing lighting should be repaired and brought up to current standards, that the proposed awning color is too bland. Further study the color to tie this into more Santa Barbara style, and removal of the landscaping in front of the glazed areas is not appropriate, and the board would like the applicant to study a permanent in-ground landscape plan for those areas. Please provide further enhancement of the main entry to the buildings, either with awning color or other details. The proposed replaced windows on the, let's see, that's the southern building facing De La Vina Street.
I think, Mr. Chair, I think that's called the west elevation.
West elevation facing De La Vina Street. The proportions of the windows need to be restudied to be more in keeping with the Santa Barbara style. The glass color, or the applicant shall study options for the glass color and endeavor to find the least colored option. The board recommends that more windows in the alleyway be replaced and updated, And the board also recommends that any rooftop mechanical equipment be screened from public view. Okay, that's the list.
I will second that under discussion. I think when you say match the existing fixtures, I think if they're not going to fix them up and they have to, if they can't replace it with LED lighting, I think we should say, instead of match, we should provide similar quality and design.
Okay, so that'd be an and or an or, provide similar quality designed exterior light fixtures.
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, I would accept that. Anything else?
Nope. Good job.
All right, so we have a first and a second. All in favor? We'll do a roll call vote. Sorry. Get used to that.
1 second, it's a new thing. Let me pull that up real quick. Sorry, got lost. All right, there we go. Board Member Black.
Aye.
Board Member Cunningham. Chair Moore.
Aye.
Board Member Olson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Six.
Aye.
Board Member Whalen.
Aye.
Board Member Watkins is absent. The motion passes.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. So I believe that takes care of all of our items today. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so at this time, that means we can adjourn our meeting for April the 6th, 2020. Thank you very much. And
thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and board members and all staff that went into